video on using a few things up, so kind of like a use it or lose it type of dish. And I kind of think I always, because of the nature of what I do for a job and the nature of faffing around in the kitchen a lot, I end up with bits of food, and it's kind of what do you do with it? Don't want to waste it. So I was kind of thinking, well, normally I've got some bits of bacon around, and I've got a bit of some pork trimmings, and I just kind of thought, well, we could actually turn it all into meatballs or a meatloaf. And I kind of think that making a meatloaf rather than meatballs would be kind of quite nice, because meatloaf is one of those things that it's a rough recipe, a rough idea of a recipe, and turns lots of things into deliciousness. So normally you'd kind of use beef mince and other things, but I haven't got beef mince. We've got some things that we need to use up. So I kind of thought, well, what we'll do is we'll make a rough meatball stroke meatloaf recipe with the things that I've got. So bear with me with this one. So we've got some leftover cooking bacon, which is, that's pork, is that? That's not cooking bacon. This is cooking bacon. So it's the cheap stuff from the supermarket, and it's the ends of gammon joints and pork joints. So it's chunky. It's fine for cooking. You're not necessarily making a bacon sandwich out of, but it's cheap and it's nice. So we're going to use that up. We're going to mince it all. So we'll mince that, and then I've got some scratty bits of pork belly, which aren't much use, like just some end trimmings, which I suppose, what are you going to do? And I just kind of cook it in the oven back. And I think, no, we'll mince that down as well. And then we've got 3 pork sausages. So we'll certainly put those in. We'll deskin them and put those into the mixture as well. And we've got some leftover feta from work, so we will do it like a spiral, like a Swiss roll roulade type of thing, I think. And we'll put that in the centre. Crumble it in, so, and then kind of roll it out flat and just crumble the cheese in, and then roll it up. Just out of interest, there is a Italian dish which I presume where meatloaf kind of came from, which is that idea, but you put in mozzarella or another cheese kind of going through it, and it melts into it, and it's very delicious. I made a video. It begins with P, but I can't pronounce it. And I'm butchering it for the Italian people. It seems a little bit insensitive. Right, so then also I've got some paprika smoked salami. Got the end of that, which is not really going to do much in the fridge. I'd probably eat that after I have a couple of cocktails on Saturday night. But we might as well mince it up and put it into the mixture as well. Out of interest, I've got a bit of bacon as well. I haven't got enough stuff already. I've got last year's bacon was dried into cured. How's it look? Ah, that's a little bit too far gone. We don't need to show that on camera. That's just dried out. And then we've got a little bit of guanciale. I don't think we'll use the guanciale up. No, we won't use the guanciale. It's got nice fur on it. So we've got some guanciale, but I think we've got enough stuff not to have to use the guanciale. We'll use the guanciale in something else. Now, and then I've got some pork scratchings, or some pork skin which I crisped up in the oven. I thought that'd be kind of quite nice. We'll put that through the mincer as well, and use that in the meat mixture. And then, ordinarily, it's breadcrumbs, but at work, cheese and biscuits, the crackers always get broken up. You can't serve those, and do you really want to eat them like that? No, but I kind of thought, well, we'll use the crackers as part of the bread part of the mixture. And then I've also got some dried bread. So this was bread that I dried out and turned into crisp breads. There will be more crumbs down the bottom of this container, like down there. There'll be more crumbs, so we'll use those crumbs up as well, and we might have to crunch up a little bit of that bread as well. But the basic recipe is for 500 grams worth of meat. There needs to be 1 egg and 100 grams worth of dried breadcrumbs. So I'll mince all the meaty parts of this up. We're not going to use that bacon, are we? No, we won't use that bacon. We'll use it for something else. Oh yeah, so the Italian precursor of the meatloaf has got like a layer of, what you do is you roll out the meat and then you put on thinly sliced bacon or prosciutto or Parma ham and then the cheese and then roll it up. So I suppose we could have done that, but I don't want to get the slicer out. So now remember what the dish was. Begins with P. Or something or other. So we'll mince everything up. We'll weigh out how much meat we've got, filling wise, which are those 4 things there. I'm not putting anything else in. Oh yeah, no, they won't be part of the breadcrumbs. They'll be part of the meat mixture. Mince everything up, weigh how much meat we've got, and then put in the right amount of bread and egg for that amount. And it'll be medium eggs. So that kind of size. 50 grams, something like that. Is that a medium egg? Something like that. So we'll do some mincing, do some chopping, do some mincing, kind of get everything together to the meatball stage, and then we'll have a faff around and put it together. Oh yes, and then I kind of thought it'd be a nice idea to slow cook the meatloaf in a loaf tin, but not open to the, so not like, I thought I'd cook it in a tomato sauce. Well, in tomatoes. So it's kind of a huge stuffed meatball, essentially. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, so I thought what we'll do is we'll strain out some of the juice from these tomatoes and we'll just use the tomato pulp, not the actual watery bit of those, because there'll be a little bit that comes out of the meatloaf mixture. And then we'll braise it in the oven like that. And I think that will be rather kind of quite nice. And then it'll be, the tomatoes will take on the flavour of the meatloaf, and the meatloaf will kind of stay nice and juicy and moist. That's what I thought about doing. Yes, but we might end up making 2. But we'll see how we go. Or I might make 1, and then any mixture left over, we might make meatballs. But anyway, I've got an idea of what I'm going to do, so I might as well, I'll do it, and then we'll be back. There looks like there's a lot of breadcrumbs there. 1.5 kilos worth of the meat element, and then so therefore 300 grams worth of dried breadcrumbs. 3 eggs. I'm not going to beat them. I'm just going to squinch it all together, and that will be enough of a mixing. I haven't seasoned because the bacon will be quite salty, and there'll already be salt in the salami. And what else? Oh, and the sausage as well. There'll be a little bit of seasoning in that. So I don't think we need to season. It doesn't look so much. It doesn't look like there's so much breadcrumbs now. I've done that. Now the pork was a bit fatty, so I think it certainly needs that amount of breadcrumbs to soak up that delicious pork fat. Doesn't want too many breadcrumbs though, because it doesn't want to be dry, but I think there's sufficient fat in the pork. Let's get both hands in. So you're probably not supposed to work the meat like this. You're probably supposed to be a little bit gentler, but yeah, I think that's it with burgers, isn't it? You don't. Was it Heston Blumenthal who was making a perfect burger, and he kind of said you don't want to overwork the meat. We're not making a burger. We're making a meatloaf. Or use it or lose it. Meatloaf. So I'm quite happy about scrunching the meat together. I don't think it's going to affect the quality or the texture or anything like that. I'm working with cheap stuff anyway. It's not as if I'm making a super duper high quality burger patty, although they could be used as a burger patty. So yeah, put some pepper in, let's say that, but no salt. So that looks okay, does that? Right, I don't think I'm going to need all that. I think I'm going to need about half that. Yeah, maybe a third. Yeah, if we do a kilo, like a third of the weight. So, a rough guesstimate on a third. So, so that'd be about a third. About that. Yeah, I think once we've rolled that out, once we've flattened that out on a bit of baking parchment, I think that'll be enough to go into that roasting, into that, what's it called? Loaf tin. There we go. Meatloaf, loaf tin. How can I not do that? How can I not put those two together? Yeah, so I think 500 grams worth of meat, therefore would be enough for that loaf tin. Therefore, so that would be 1 egg and 100 grams worth of. Where's my cloth? Don't want to dry my jeans. Put my cloth down somewhere. Ah, it's there. Yeah, so that's that. So we'll put it a bit. No, let's just do it on camera. No, that's the way it is. Not that I edit my videos that much anyway. Why would you? We're not here for high production value, are we? No. Wait. So, how are we going to do it? Yeah, I reckon that's about right for that loaf tin. So, I'm going to get out the rolling pin. So the more we roll it out, the more filling we'll get to put in it. So the more rolls round. It's looking square-ish, so we can just mix that out like that. So it's roughly square. It's a terrible waste of baking parchment, this, but I've generally got some scratchy bits of baking parchment around, so that looks about right. So wash the hands again because I've been cooking meat, and I know exactly where my cloth is this time. So what else was I wasn't going to put anything else in it. Nah, I'm not going to put that bacon in it. No, I mean, it's going to be a cheap dinner. We could, you know, so the first head chef that I worked with was very good at turning expensive dishes and making them cheaper, and that philosophy has kind of stuck with me. That, you know, we can do things on a smaller budget. You know, it doesn't always have to be. I see people on TV and talking about the best quality ingredients, and I'm like, yeah, nice if you live in that world. Not everyone can afford the best quality ingredients. You know, not everyone can afford Wagyu beef. You know, so I think if we can do things cheaper but use the same techniques, buy cheaper ingredients, and kind of treat them in a way that we can make the most out of them. So this is like cheap feta. It's about between 80p and £1 for 200 grams where you buy it, depending on where you buy it from. And it's the basic one that's in the supermarkets. The one that's it's not called feta. It's salad cheese, and it's called salad cheese because it hasn't got the right ratios of goat or sheep's milk in it, I think. Right, so, and then we'll roll this up like that. But, like, don't go out and buy cheap feta if you've got, I think that's going to be too much cheese. Don't go out and buy cheap feta if you've got another type of cheese in the cupboard, well, in the fridge. You know, if you, whatever cheese you've got, it might be a mozzarella ball, it might be a bit of cheap cheddar, it might be a bit of expensive cheddar, but just use what you've got. See if we can do a better job with this. Yeah, that's how you do it. That's what I needed to do. Just at the edge. That wants to be in complete contact with the meat, so it's not cheesy on the outside. Like that. And then pinch the ends down like that. So the cheese doesn't escape too much. Nothing wrong with a bit of seepage of cheese. And we can form it into a meatloaf shape, which will fit better into the container. About right, isn't it? That's about right. So that out of the way. That's had raw meat on it, so that gets thrown away. And now I'll pause for a second. Right, cheap tins of tomatoes. They're about 40p, depending on where you buy them from. And they're all right. All right. We just need to treat them in a slightly better way. There's less tomato pulp and more juice than in your more premium brands. I'm not going to say better quality. So we just need to get rid of some of that liquid. Just the watery stuff. I don't know why these. I think it'll just be a lower grade of tomato. So when they're grading them, they won't have just passed muster. So if we just do that with a sieve, we will get rid of some of the liquid out of the tomatoes and just be left with more solid material. I suppose if I had a bit more time, or if I was doing this tomorrow instead of rushing today, I would have made a proper tomato sauce and cooked down some onions, but I can't be bothered doing that. So where are we? We can put that juice back in the tin. We're not going to waste that. I'm not going to make a mess of everything. Don't make a mess of my board, although it's already dirty. So we have made substantially thicker tomatoes, and I think it will be worth straining them rather than buying a better quality tomato, because the better quality tomatoes start getting really expensive. Potato masher. So that out of the way, and then just potato masher, just to, because I can't be bothered getting the stick blender out, we just crunch them down like that, so it's more of a sauce consistency. It would be better with the hand blender in there, but it's not in this room. It's in the utility room, and I can't be bothered going in there to get it out. So then, this over top, like so, like that, and then that will make a bit of a tomato sauce to go with our meatloaf. Could just bake it in the oven like that, but I quite like the idea of the tomato sauce, and then if we wanted to, we could cook a bit of pasta to have with the meatloaf, or do the Italian thing and have the sauce over the pasta as a starter to kind of fill you up with pasta, and then have the meat for the main course with a bit of a salad. But anyway, so into the oven, 2 hours I reckon, on about 160. We want a gentle cook, so I think 160 for about 2 hours, and then we'll see what it's like when I come back from swimming. Surprise, surprise. Foil over the top, because we don't want it to dry out too much, although we might do. No, put some foil over it, and then we'll see what it looks like. If we're going to put foil over it, just need to move the tomatoes off the top, because the tomatoes have enough acidity in them to affect the aluminium foil, or aluminum if you are in other parts of the world. So, a bit of foil on the top, and then into an oven 160 for about 2 hours, and we'll see how it turns out. 2 hours, let's have a look at it. Smells good. It smells good. What it's going to do is it's made out of bacon and pork products, isn't it? It's stuck to the top slightly. I did think about uncovering it, but I forgot. Oh no, it's okay. So it's kind of crisped up on top, and the sauce has reduced. So it looks good. It looks good. It hasn't split open, and it'll certainly cooked all the way through. So we'll just let that cool for a little while before we cut into it. Quite a lot of fat's come out of it. I can see the fat's pulled there, but that will just mean that it's delicious. So I was thinking about this, and there was something else I wanted to kind of add. I was kind of thinking that if I had some spam, if I had like a couple of slices of spam, I would have minced the spam in there as well. So or something like that, like a gammon. It's a gammon ham, but it's basically just cooked pork, cuts of pork, and then kind of like pushed back together. So that's what spam is, and that's what that is as well. But if I had some of that kicking around, I would have used that. And I did use, if I had beef mince, I would have put some beef mince in it. It's just a case of what have you got? What can you buy that's cheap? What have you got that needs using up, that you can bulk, that you can put into something? I think that's kind of the basic idea of this. Like, there's no set recipe. As long as we've got the right amount of meat, the right amount of egg, and the right amount of breadcrumb, like, go to town with it, you know. I wouldn't necessarily put any cooked meat in it, although that is cooked meat, because then we're kind of approaching on the realms of rissoles, which I'm sure rissoles are cooked meat. Meatballs that you make from cooked meat rather than raw meat, which is more like a meatball, meatloaf type of thing. But still, you could. So, like the end of Christmas, when you're fed up turkey and don't want to eat any more turkey leg meat, cook the leg meat up, mince it with some cooking bacon and some breadcrumbs and an egg, and you still be able to do the same thing. So pork mince, anything kind of like that. So just use up kind of what you've got, and buy as little as possible. That's the kind of what I'm getting at with that. So that doesn't need to be that. I did think of something else that might be going to. No, I did think of another idea for another video, because videos lead to more videos always. So I need a knife that's not going to cut into my tin. So I'm just going to look. Should have had a plate ready, shouldn't I? No, winging it as always. God, look at that. That looks good, doesn't it? That looks good, doesn't it? It's nice and pink. Oh, should come the oven. Don't need that on it anymore. So I'm not suggesting that feta is a good choice for this, but it's cheap and it's what I had. Obviously, any kind of cheese is going to work, but I think something soft like a mozzarella would be lovely. But if you haven't got mozzarella, a bit of cheddar would be fine. So how does it taste? That is lovely. That's lovely, that the feta works actually. So the feta has got that sharp edge, which kind of anything sharp works with pork. You can taste a little bit of the smoked paprika salami in there, just a little bit. So that would suggest that you could put a little in your meatloaf. You could put a little bit of smoked paprika. That would be nice. But any kind of herbs, basil, thyme. I wouldn't necessarily say rosemary. It's quite powerful. But herbs in there, parsley, certainly chives, and numerous spices as well. But that's lovely, is that? And I think it's a really nice way of using up whatever you've kind of got kicking around. Now, I don't mean that to sound like everybody can just go into the freezer and pull out a bit of, or go into the fridge and pull out some bacon, or go into the freezer and pull out some bits of pork mince or anything like that. I'm not suggesting, so I know not everyone's kind of like that, but it's just more a case of what have you got and how can we use it up. And I think that's it. I think what have we got meat wise in the house that we can use up and make something nice, and that with a bit of pasta or a bit of polenta I'm going to have it with, it'll be lovely. So I think that's a success. So I'll put the recipe in the description, but the basic recipe is a kilo of meat, to 500 grams worth of meat, minced meat, whatever you've got, to 1 egg and 100 grams worth of dried breadcrumbs. Certainly dried breadcrumbs if you're using things that are a bit fatty, because the breadcrumbs will soak up that fat and make it taste absolutely delicious. With leaner things, I would use less breadcrumbs. You just kind of have to just kind of like work that out yourself. But if it was leaner cuts of meat, I would say 50 grams worth of breadcrumbs, or 50 grams worth of fresh breadcrumbs. But anyway, yeah, and then meat is anything that you fancy. You know, it could just be pure cooking bacon. So cooking bacon minced down would be fine. Obviously, you've got to have a mince for that, or just minced pork would be fine, or just minced beef would be fine. But anything else that you've kind of got kicking about, like a sausage, you know, a stray sausage that no one's going to eat, you know, put it in by all means. And a bit of salami, put that in. A bit of Parma ham, a bit of cooked ham, a bit of spam, you know, use it all up. But there we go, that's delicious. I'm going to really enjoy that. A success.